Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. We are out here again with Pearl, and Pearl has been giving us some difficulties, to be honest. It seems all the little things that we've been fixing have been working out. But the big problem with Pearl, and the reason why we got Pearl at such a good deal, was because Pearl's brakes are locked up. Rear brakes completely locked. The driver's side, we've had the wheel off, and the only way we can get the caliper to relax, you know, and the wheel turn free was to crack the bleeder. We cracked the bleeder, relieved the pressure, and the caliper relaxed. And then as soon as you tighten that bleeder up, we can't compress that piston with the bleeder screw in. So we know that hydraulically there's got to be an issue in going anywhere from the caliper all the way up front to the master cylinder. So we, normally speaking, if I had a rear wheel that with a caliper that was hanging and locked up, the first suspect would be the brake hose. Now with this vehicle, the guy had a brake job done. The guy I bought it from brought it to his local mechanic, wherever he may live. Not around here, but he brought it to, I don't know the guy, I don't know the mechanic, I don't know the guy I bought the truck from, but he brought it to his local mechanic. The local mechanic replaced 2 steel brake lines. I don't think either of them were for the rear. The rear looked like they were replaced a while back, but replaced some brake lines and did a rear brake job. Calipers, caliper brackets, rotors, pads, and calipers, put new calipers on. So the whole rear brake job charged the guy like $1,400, and now the rear brakes are locked up, and the mechanics that did the job said, I can't figure it out. So the guy just dumped the truck cheap. That's where I come in. So we determined that we got a hydraulic problem, because if we crack the bleeder, we're good. And we tested that on the driver's side. We haven't taken the passenger side off yet, but I'm assuming it's the same thing. It seems the driver's side might be locked a little harder than the passenger side, but the passenger side is still, and you'll see when I go to turn the wheel, it's a lot of effort. It's in neutral right now, it's up off the ground, and it's a lot of effort to turn the wheel. So where are we at? Well, I kind of got sidetracked, and the last time we were out here, I don't know if I videoed it or not, but I just had a thought that master cylinder, this has got a hydro boost system in it, not a vacuum booster. So could the hydro boost system be not coming back, you know, that rod that's pushing the master cylinder not coming back, causing the master to hang up? Okay, that's easy to tell. Let's pump the brakes a couple times so that they're locked up good, and I disconnected the master from the hydro boost so that there was no pushing from the hydro boost onto the master, and the brakes are still locked up. So we know that it's not the hydro boost. We could rule that out. We don't know that the hydro boost is good. We just know that that's not what's causing the lockup. Master cylinder. I cracked the rear line going to the master cylinder, where it goes right into the side of the master cylinder, and I just got a little dribble of fluid. Didn't get in. I don't have any pressure backed up there, and that did not free up the rear brakes. So the master is not the problem. It could be a problem, but it's not the problem for this. So I put the master, bolted that back up, tightened the lines back up, and then thought to myself, well, if I just had this truck not knowing anything, not knowing the history or the sketchy history, because the guy really wasn't that forthcoming with the history on it. I asked him a couple questions that he should have known the answer to, and he really didn't give me a solid answer. So I really don't trust everything he said, but I did have a receipt for the brake job, so I knew what was done with the brake job. Consulted with a local mechanic, and right away he said brake hoses. And I'm thinking to myself, how could 2 brake hoses go bad at the same time? But brake hoses. And if I didn't know anything about the vehicle and I had a rear caliper hanging up on me, brake hoses. So why didn't I, because the brake hoses look new. There's rust over everything. This is New York, so there's rust everywhere, but the brake hoses don't have rust on their ends. I'm assuming they're new. They look new, but I don't know. So what I'm going to do here is, what I'm thinking, before I replace a brake hose that doesn't need to be replaced, if I have fluid, the fluid comes out fine. Opened up the bleeder, I put my one-man bleeder on it, pumped the brakes, fluid's clear, it comes out nice and easy, brake pedal's nice and easy. So the fluid works coming this way. It doesn't work going back that way, which is usually a sign of a collapsed hose. right? It almost, the hose collapses and the hose works like a check valve. So fluid goes that way, it doesn't go that way. So what I'm thinking is to diagnose whether the caliper, this has got 4 brake hoses in the back. So you got 2 at each caliper, and then you got 2 in the middle. It doesn't T in the middle because it's got the active brake system. So the 2, you get 2 hoses at each caliper, they run to the middle, and then they both turn up and go all the way forward. 2 separate runs, not just one front to rear line. It's got something to do with that, whatever the active brake system. JL4 is the RPO code for the GM vehicles. So there's 2 hoses there where it goes up and over the rear end. Instead of one on the top of the rear end to give it that bounce, there's 2. They look old. These look fairly new, just by eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the brake hose. So if I disconnect, not the brake hose at the caliper, because we know the caliper is new and the fluid comes out when I crack the bleeder. If I crack it at the caliper, it's going to come out and free the caliper. But if I crack it loose where the brake hose meets the first hard line and the brakes stay locked up, then we know that hose has got to be the culprit. So we're hoping that we crack that loose, the brakes stay locked up, we know it's the hose. If we crack it loose and the brakes free up, then it ain't the hose, because the hose is allowing fluid to pass through it going back to the vehicle. If you follow me? Maybe when I do it, it'll make more sense. All right, so with the wheel off, put a screwdriver in the rotor. You can see I cannot turn it at all. So bleeder is up top here. Let me get a wrench for that bleeder. I crack that bleeder. All right, so with the bleeder screw loose, it dripped out a little bit of fluid, but just enough for the calipers to loosen up and allow the brake to turn. It's still a little tight, but I don't have great leverage here. And I know that the calipers are releasing now. If I tighten the bleeder back up, right, and you can see the turning effort. It's still a little hard to turn, but not crazy. And I go back in the car and press the brake a couple times. Each press of the brake is going to squeeze these, and it's not going to release, and it's going to squeeze, not going to release, and it's going to get harder and harder and bound up more and more. All right, so I pressed on the brake 6 or 8 times, and now that's where I'm at. So we're not getting the pressure out. The next culprit could be this brake hose, which just looks like it's freaking brand new to me. But the only way to take it out of the equation is to break it free where it goes into the steel line back here. If I break that and the brakes free up, then we know the hose is good because it's letting fluid back. Alright, so I kept twisting where the steel line goes into the hose until I saw some fluid start to leak out. Once I saw some fluid start to leak out, I'm going to take my screwdriver and see if the brakes, and they did. So they unlocked. So we know, I was hoping they were going to be locked, because if they were locked, then we could condemn that brake hose. But that brake hose is not the problem, because we relieve the tension on the inside section of the brake hose, which means the fluid is flowing back out of the hose, relieving the pressure, and now we can turn the wheel. So we know it's not the brake hose. We could safely assume it's not going to be the brake hose on the other side. So now it could be the 2 hoses that go up and over the rear end. That's our next spot that we're going to have to check, because working our way back, you know, if we disconnect where the brake hoses over the rear end are on the vehicle side, not before the hose, after the hose, that connection, and the brakes remain locked, then we know that that hose is where the blockage is. Could they both be bad at the same time? I don't know. Maybe. Like I said, this one seems less bad as the other one. The other one locks up even tighter than this one. So It could be that both hoses are bad. One's just worse than the other. I don't know. I don't know, but let me get this tightened back up again, and then we got to crawl underneath and getting all the grit and the rust that's under there. It's horrible. All right, so just to better demonstrate, because with that screwdriver in the rotor, you know, it looked like I was having trouble spinning it, but I pressed on the brake pedal, you know, 6 or 8 times to lock it up. It was locked up good, couldn't move it with the screwdriver at all. And then all I did was crack where the brake hose goes into the steel line running down the axle. And I felt that it freed up with the screwdriver in the rotor. If you didn't think it was really free enough, like that wasn't it, once I put the wheel on and you have the leverage of the wheel, right? And that's all I did was crack that, let a little brake fluid dribble out. It came from the caliper because that's where the pressure was. And it dribbled out, relieved the pressure, went through the brake hose to dribble out, so we know the brake hose is good and we could turn the wheel relatively easily. So, where are we at? Well, we're striking out is where we're at. So, we've already ruled out the master cylinder, the brake booster from causing this problem, the master cylinder from causing this problem, the caliper, the bleeder, the caliper mechanism, and the hose for the caliper on this side for sure. On that side is a good chance. It looks like a new hose as well, so I can't imagine there's going to be a difference from side to side. So our next check, working our way down, I doubt that it's going to be a steel line that got something inside of it that's only letting fluid come this way and not that way. It's got to be brake hoses. You got 2 brake hoses that we could do the same type of test with, and then you got the ABS module. So if it's not those brake hoses, it's going to be an ABS module issue. I don't know if we're going to have enough time today to crawl under and check those other 2 brake hoses. I'm really hoping it's those 2 brake hoses, because that would be an easy fix. 2 hoses, boom, in, bleed it out, and it's done. But that's it today from Axel's Garage, working on Pearl, trying to figure out the brakes on Pearl. If I do those hoses and they ain't the problem and it's ABS module, I'm probably gonna, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, on my, out here in the street or in the driveway, be able to deal with that ABS module easily. I might just send it out and get it done. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you have any ideas, any way to troubleshoot it different than what I'm already doing, I'd love to know. I'd love to hear it. I've never had a problem like this before. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.